Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday night call and happy St. Patrick's Day. We have a special guest tonight. But before we do that, we know it's always about the announcements. So the first one I think I'm going to read about is you need to book your room by March 26th so that you get the good deal or you don't hear the message that no rooms available. So do it tonight after the call if you haven't done it already. April 16th to the 19th is the Spring DE Clearwater. And the next DEs are in the summertime, July 16th to the 19th at the Atlanta Marriott Perimeter Center. And then fall is October 22nd to the 25th at the Atlanta Marriott Perimeter Center. And you know you need to register at lifede.com. And then it's the Connect groups. I don't know. I hope they're working. I love to see it in person, but I hope they're also working between DEs where you just get together, call on someone if you need them, send a nice email to someone, just stay connected. Okay, so tonight we have a chiropractor from Connecticut, and that is Dr. Mike Koster. And he has been going to DE since 2007. I think it sounds like he discovered DE like a lot of Connecticut people from doing the Band of Brothers at Steve's office. So without any more talking about him, I'm going to let him speak for himself. So take it away, Dr. Mike.
Hello, everybody. I hope you guys can hear me. The sound was kind of going in and out on my computer in the beginning. Mindy, maybe you could just message me. Let me know you guys can hear me okay. Well, fingers crossed. I hope you can hear me. So to answer everybody's first question, yes, I'm growing my beard out. Yes, I know how white it is. And yes, I know it makes my face look fat. So all I really need to do to lose weight is shave, which is awesome. And that's the only joke I'll make tonight. But sorry that, well, thank you guys actually for letting me do this week. I was supposed to be on last week, but we had some ice storms up here and I had to reschedule a big training that we do with all our docs that they really look forward to. And I double booked myself. And it's actually kind of good because I'm going to talk a little bit about that training and about the drills that we did, about the stuff that we've been working on as a team. And I know you guys get a ton of tick and a ton of, principle and philosophy. And I think that's awesome. And what I'm going to try and do is give you some nuts and bolts and relate it back to just running just a principled office and really relaying the message. What we drilled on last week was basically report of findings. And, everybody argues over what's the most important visit in practice. Is it the new patient, the report of findings, the adjustment, the re-exams, like what's the most important? And honestly, they're all pretty darn important. I mean, you have to have a great technique. You have to have great table talk. You have to teach your patients. And sorry guys, if you hear my beagles bark, there's nothing I can do about that. But as doctors, we're teachers, right? So we have to learn how to teach and communicate the message with our patients, or else they're just not going to get it from anywhere else. So what we've been working on for the last couple of months with our docs is really their communication skills, because everybody has a different way of communicating. We have analytical docs, we have expressive docs, we have amiable docs, we have every kind of personality. And you can't really go with scripts because none of us are very good actors. It has to come from the heart. So we've been working on getting our doctors to be able to really communicate the message of principled chiropractic and what it can actually do to help save somebody's life. And that really, honestly, it starts with the new patient. And Steve kind of taught me and taught Steve Judson, you know who I'm talking about, taught all of us how to take just one heck of a history and how to gather as much information as you possibly can from a person. And we're not talking about like they came in with back pain, right? We're talking about getting to the good stuff, right? They came in with back pain and they're looking for help, or they came in with headaches and they're looking for help. I mean, it's not a never thing, but it's a little less common for somebody to come to your office thinking, I just want my atlas checked and I want to keep my brainstem clear and I want to keep my life expression to its fullest, right? That's usually not our new patient exam. That's usually not the general public's idea of what chiropractic is. So they come in with a problem and they come in with a symptom, and we listen to them and we write it down and we record it. But that's about as far as we go. And then we have to move into connecting with the person and relating with the person and finding out what they're really suffering from, finding out what medications they're on, which are just numbing out and just destroying their life expression, getting to the root cause of all of their problems, and just really, really connecting with the person and connecting all the dots on that new patient visit, so that when we go through the report of findings and we're actually teaching them about their spine and about their spinal cord and about what a subluxation is and what innate is, it means something. Like, we heard what they had to say. We know what they're suffering from. We understand, and we're here to help. So really, when you talk about a report of findings and what we were drilling on, Amisha, let me back up a sec, because this is kind of cool, and I'll talk about this for a minute. I went a couple months ago. I went to a seminar for a couple of days that I was invited to, and the guy that wrote the book, Debrief to Win, his call sign is Cujo. He's a Top Gun flight instructor, a war veteran, combat pilot. He was pretty badass. And it was an awesome seminar. And he was teaching us how to properly debrief with our team, which was great. And I'm not going to go into that right now. That's a really good book. You should read the book. But one of the things that he did to really throw us off our game was he put us through a simulation. And he said, in the military, what they do, especially with combat pilots, is they put people through simulations. And you're always in the simulator. You're almost always, you're in there, and it's almost always 10 times more stressful in the simulator than any possible thing that could happen in real life. So they try and push their pilots to their limits of stress in the simulator, where they're not going to lose their life, so that when they get into a real life situation that gets stressful, they don't choke, and they can actually manage that situation. They can and they can just calmly succeed in their task. So we were beating our heads against the wall, and we finally figured out how to do some simulations with our doctors. So last Tuesday, when I was supposed to be speaking here, I set up these simulations, and we went in and we trained and we drilled, and we did report of findings, and we critiqued each other and debriefed afterwards, and just had this amazing night where instead of everybody coming in with scripts and pre-rehearsed report of findings and x-rays that they've already seen and histories they've already taken, I changed it up, and I had them come in, and they had to give somebody else's report of findings in somebody else's report of findings room, in the most stressful situation possible, with 10 or 11 of their colleagues watching via teleconference, them on Zoom give a report of findings to a patient who they just learned about 3 minutes ago. So a picture going in and reading through the note sheet and seeing what the person came in with, and then taking a quick look at the x-rays, and then just boom, go, give a report of findings, explain chiropractic, right? This was really cool for us to do. And we have 11 or 12 docs, so we could do it together. But then I thought, like, how can I talk about this, and how can I get you guys possibly doing this? Because it is very, I mean, the debrief afterwards was amazing, because, they basically said in every circumstance, they said, wow, like after that, like we had docs who were 20 years, 25-year docs, like nervous and shaky because they're out of their element, right? Put on the spot. But then they go into practice, and some of our younger docs who are a little bit nervous given report of findings, who, maybe they shy away a little bit from the more difficult ones, the more emotional ones, the feedback that the findings, and it was just simple. It was, compared to that simulation that we did, compared to the training we did last week, it was simple. So I thought back to when I first found DE and when I first found Band of Brothers. I was a mixer. I came out of NYCC. I had 4 years of expert mixing. And every kind of therapy, decompression, acupuncture. I mean, I was, as Andy would say, I was a pro. And Andy, I hope you're giving a foot massage right now, but all right, squirrel. So I was a mixer. It didn't feel good, but I was really good at it. And then I found Steve Judson, I found Band of Brothers, I found DE, and I immediately shifted course, changed course, and switched paths. And it's been a journey ever since. It's been an absolute journey, and I've gotten around some amazing people. And I've been coming to DE since 2007. And I've seen people transform. I've changed and I've transformed myself so much. So to get back to what I was talking about, the report of findings, at that new patient visit, for the reason I brought it up, I forget why I brought it up, but the new patient visit for so many years, I had a 3-day new patient extravaganza. It was a new patient visit and then send out for x-rays and then have them come back in, and we'd go through this whole report of findings, give them their first adjustment, and then send them off and then come back in for a second report of findings and go over my recommendations and the finances. And I was almost a little judgmental of people that adjusted on the first visit because they didn't take their time and I had this vision in my head of how I needed to take my time and mark the x-rays and prepare for the report of findings before I could ever lay my hands on a person. And that changed recently, probably within the last couple of years, when I finally installed the digital x-ray in my office and I stopped sending people out for x-rays. And I thought to myself, I see the subluxation. I know what's wrong with the person. I want to take care of this person right now. And I just immediately, like, Steve-O has said, just what, if you see the subluxation and you know what's wrong and you know how to adjust a person, why would you make them wait? So what I kind of wanted to say was, even if you're doing something that you're really comfortable with, and even if you're doing something that is working for you, right? It might not be the best thing. It's just what you're comfortable with. It might be a good thing, but you might be able to get better. So keep an open mind to some of the things I'm about to say. So kind of getting back to Band of Brothers, if you're in a Band of Brothers, which I hope you are, when I first started going to Band of Brothers, it was stressful. I don't want to say it was like a kumbaya moment. Like we were all just tearing each other apart because none of us were really excellent at what we were doing yet. Steve was kind of like the ringleader and he was the teacher and the mentor, but we would get in there and we'd do work and it wasn't comfortable, right? Because you kind of felt exposed, but people that stuck it out and people that came to DE and came back from DE and went back to Band of Brothers, we all grew. Like we all absolutely grew from that experience. And so that's kind of what we're doing with our group of docs. So that means that you guys can go back to your Band of Brothers and you can do this. You guys can set up simulations. You guys can bounce stuff off of each other. You guys can make each other uncomfortable. You guys can come up with better ways of communicating, better ways of getting the message across. So when we talk about report of findings, what's our real job at the report of findings? I keep looking down because I wrote 4 things down on a piece of paper and I'm making sure I don't forget those 4 things. But our job at a report of findings really is, we come in, check in with the patient, see how their first adjustment went, see how they're doing, maybe put their mind at ease a little bit. And then we want to connect with them. And we just want to answer 4 very important questions. And they're really the only questions the person has. The person wants to know what's wrong with them. They want to know if we can help them. And they want to know how we can help them and how long it's going to take. That's really it. I mean, as doctors, that's all we really need to communicate. So it's funny. I went into this room of docs and I said, all right, if we can answer these questions, connect with the person and answer those questions without giving you a script and without telling you exactly what to say, just answer those questions, right? What's wrong with me? Tell them. They don't need to know everything that you see on the x-ray. They don't need to know everything that you learned at school. They just need to know that you know what's wrong with them. And can we help? They need to, offer your help. They need to know that we know what's wrong with them and that we can help them, and then make some very, very certain and very, not authoritative, that's the wrong word, but just with authority, make your recommendations. They're important. Those recommendations for care are, they could save somebody's life, and if you mess that part up and the person just comes in for a couple of visits until they start feeling better, then they're not really getting their life saved. They're getting a jacuzzi experience. So, if you can answer those 4 questions, and then you have things set up in your office where your staff can come in and go over finances, because the last question somebody always has is, well, what's it going to cost? How much is it going to cost? How long is it? All that stuff. But as the doctor, you want to connect with the person. So as I was watching all of our docs give their report of findings, I saw the analytical docs giving a very analytical report of findings where they're going over every little thing that they saw on the x-ray. And that took up a lot of the report of findings. Most people are going to glaze over that. There's been so many times when I've sat there as the analytical doc giving that report of findings, and the person's nodding their head, and 10 minutes later they ask me, "Doc, is that my neck?" Meanwhile, I'm looking at like their pelvis. So you don't need to give a 10-minute long x-ray report. If you don't even do x-rays and you're doing a lot of scans, you don't need to go too deep into the science behind the scans. They just need to know that you know and that you can help them. Some of the best reported findings that I saw my docs give were the ones where they were just connecting the dots. They were talking nervous system. They were talking innate, life expression, brainstem, clearing the atlas, what that meant to the person. And then they'd go back to the person. They connect with the person. And each time they showed them a little x-ray finding or showed them a subluxation on that x-ray, they would connect it with something that the person came in with, letting that person know that you listened to them and that you heard them and that you could help them. So I'd have to say a couple of the best reported findings I saw that night were just the doc going in human to human, innate to innate, connecting with the person. So the other thing that came to mind while I was watching these reported findings is that if a person's really, coming to you for help because they're kind of messed up, whether it's migraines or neck pain, back pain, whatever it is, maybe they're just strung out on like anxiety drugs and they don't even know that we have the answer for that too. But they're sitting there, and most of the time, even if they've already been adjusted once, they're pretty well subluxated. They're pretty well messed up at that report of findings. So I can't imagine that they're able to sit there and concentrate for more than 14 seconds, right? So what we learned quickly was half-hour report of findings, they're listening to 5 minutes of it. So you better just give a really, really good 5 to 7 minute report of findings and then get them adjusted. And then each time they come in, what we're working on now with our docs is table talk. And every time they come in for the first 12 visits, they get a new message and they get a new lesson and a new story. And those messages and those stories and those lessons, they match up with the stuff that we have just around the office, whether it's the quotes we have on the walls or the posters that we've made, whatever we have, whatever we want, whatever information we want to give to our patients, we want them sitting in the waiting room just looking at it. And then when they get on the table, we want to explain it to them and why it's on the wall and how it pertains to them. So what we've tried to do and then on top of that, there was 1 or 2 docs that got a little bit long-winded with their report of findings. And, it just clicked in my head, and this might be, I hope there's some younger docs on here, or not even younger, but maybe younger in practice, because otherwise I think I'm probably preaching to the choir. But it clicked that as I've gotten, let's just say older and more mature in my office, I stopped doing a lot of the things that I used to do to connect with my patients and to get referrals, because I just got really good at just regularly educating people on the tables and getting those referrals, and I built the reputation. So I kind of got lazy and I stopped doing my new patient orientation in the office. So now that I have a new doc in the office, and we have a bunch of new docs, we're reinstating that new patient orientation, because so much of what you can just get really long-winded with, because we want to give them all the information. But giving all the information 3 or 4 times a day and 3 or 4 different reported findings, it can get not only tiring, but it can just be a lot, right? And I just don't know that the person's really listening the whole time. Right. So as I'm watching these doctors give these reported findings, 1 or 2 of them got a little bit long-winded, and I kind of picked it apart and we critiqued that doc. And during the debrief, we said 45, 50% of what you said in the reported findings really should have been a good part of your new patient orientation as a group. Right. So just, stick to the basics with that report of findings. Make sure that in that 5 to 7 to 10 minutes that what you're talking about is the most important stuff, that there's nothing extra, there's no fluff. Right. And you got to make sure the person knows that you're there, you listen to them, and that you can help them. One thing I also learned years ago, and I don't know who said this. It might have been Steve, might have been somebody else. Uh, Maybe it was before DE, but they said a mechanistic practice. So like if you're sitting there and you're thinking, oh God, I really, maybe you've been stuck trying to get over 200 a week forever, or you just keep trying to get over, you slip back, you get over, you slip back. Somebody told me a long time ago, they said, uh, a practice that's, I don't want to say subluxation based, but a mechanistic practice. So even though you're doing quote unquote like principled straight chiropractic, you don't have a whole bunch of modalities and a whole bunch of stuff in your office, but the message that you're giving your people is subluxation, curve correction, degeneration, right? How many of our reported findings and how many of our talks are based on, all right, well, I see degenerative disc there. I see bone spurs there. I see a reverse cervical curve there. And then you talk about subluxation, you might talk about the nervous system and what that reverse curve does to the nervous system and what those degenerative discs could do to the nerves. And it's a good report of findings, but it's a mechanistic type report of findings. I was really, really good at those report of findings for a long time. And the whole time, just like the person told me years and years and years ago, I struggled to get over 200. I struggled to keep patients for longer than maybe their corrective care. I was really good at keeping people for corrective care. But then for lifetime care, I didn't have it. Not until I started giving a less mechanistic education to the patient and a more innate education to the patient, where we start talking about innate and life expression and the ability to heal and above, down, inside out. And God, when I finally put I move the bone, God does the healing on my wall. And then that was on the wall. I was nervous to put that on the wall for whatever reason. If you guys know me, you know why, but I was nervous to put that on the wall. Once I did, I had people thanking me. They're like, oh my God, thank you for putting that up. Now I know that we actually believe the same thing, which was really awesome, because then I could glance up at the I move the bone, God does the healing right in my adjusting area, and know that my job is no longer to fix the curve in their neck and to hammer away at their kyphotic thoracic spine and to be the posture police or just any of the other mechanistic. I mean, we should be all of that, but if it's pure mechanistic curve correction in your office, you don't really get to see the miracles. You don't get to see the people stay for 10, 15, 20 years. Like, I'm finally at the point in my career, which is amazing, where patients have grown up under chiropractic care and they're starting to get married and have babies and bring their babies in. So I'm adjusting 3 generations, which is pretty insane. And it's incredibly fulfilling and rewarding to have that kind of a practice now. And I owe that all to DE. And especially, I mean, I do get a lot of Steve time. Let's just put it, he hates when I say that, but I mean, I get to be around Judson probably more than even though he's in Florida and I'm in Connecticut. We talk a lot. Let's put it that way. I was around him a long time before we started Life Family Chiropractic. We started Life Family Chiropractic in 2018. We probably talk a lot more now because we have to. But also, I never stop learning from just conversations that we have. I like to think sometimes I actually bring stuff up that he learns from too, which is nice. But looking down at this, I mean, I don't have much more to share with you guys. I will kind of wrap it up a little bit, just by saying, don't be afraid to take maybe 1 or 2 things that I said tonight and just think a little bit differently. Challenge yourself. If you've been in practice 20 years and you think you got it and you like the way you're doing it. I was in practice 20 years, let's see, 3 years ago. And that's when I really started changing things. And it feels great. And one thing I will leave you with, and I was really supposed to start with this. It's 9:30 right now, Eastern. And at my age, I'm usually going to bed right now. So I had to stay up for this call. And not only did I have to stay up, but yesterday, I saw 100 people. We saw 100 people yesterday, and I've got a newly broken ankle. So I was limping around my office, seeing those patients, which is kind of physically exhausting. And when I got home, I was physically exhausted, but just mentally charged. You're just feeling great. Today, I let my associate see patients today. and I stayed home and I spent my 12 hours on the computer, which is not mentally charging at all, right? So I would have to say that a perfect contrast between yesterday and today. I would much, much, much rather be physically exhausted and mentally stimulated and charged and have served 100 people and come home just spent than today. I literally had to do some meditation and some exercise and some self-reflection to get myself a little pumped up to talk to y'all tonight, because 12 hours on the computer, I don't know if you've ever done it, but it's not so much fun. So I'll leave you with this little pearl, Mindy. Cherish the time that you have with your patients in your practice. Just putting your hands on people and communicating the love that you have for chiropractic and the love that you have for your mission and for your purpose in life. You just need to share that with your patients. They need to know why you're doing what you're doing. They need to know that you're there for them and that you can help them with almost any problem they might come in with. And that's where I'm just going to leave you guys. Love and appreciate you.
Well, that was a great pearl to end it with. That's for sure. You made me laugh because when you were talking about
Mindy, I can't hear a word you're saying.
Oh boy, so sorry that, but I just wanted to convey to you that simple usually reaches everybody's heart. And maybe afterwards you can go back and listen to what I said to you, because sometimes when you try to over-explain to them, you've lost them. But if you do it with the heart, you do it with your smile and you're looking straight at them, you got them for life. So since you can't hear me, I'll let you go and type to you. Goodbye. Goodbye. And I love you. Goodbye, everybody.